Hi, this is Mr. West, and you're watching a Khan Academy tutorial on combining like terms with negative coefficients in distribution. This seems like it's a lot, but if you've been working through your particular math unit, this shouldn't be so bad. But I'm going to go over a few topics just in case you haven't had the opportunity to go over them yet. So the first one I want to draw your attention to is this top box, which is like terms. So in algebra, we can only combine or add or subtract what are called like terms. And they have to have the same variable with the same power. So if I have this negative x squared here, my like terms could be 2.5x squared. Oops, I forgot a x squared here. 3x squared. But it can't be just that 3x that I originally had because it has to have the same power, the same variable and the same power. So if I have 5x, then I could have 2x, I could have 1/2 x. It doesn't matter what the number or the coefficient is in front of that x. It just has to have the same variable, the x, and the same power, which in this case is an implied 1. And if I have what are called constants, which are just numbers, -5, they can only be combined with other numbers. But it could be any number. It could be a fraction, it could be a decimal, like 10 to -14.3. Those are like terms. So that's something to keep in mind, that we can only combine like terms. The other thing we need to go over for this video is, or this Khan Academy tutorial, is distribution. So if I'm looking at this parenthesis here, normally we start with parentheses, but in this case I can't add x and 4. They're not like terms. X is a variable, 4 is a constant or a number, and I can't combine those. But if there's a number out in front of the parentheses, that's an implied multiplication. I can distribute and multiply those two things together. So how does that work? Well, I'm going to multiply the 3 times the x and then the 3 times the 4. What does that give me? Well, that gives me 3x and then plus 12. So that's how you would handle that distribution problem. Let's look at the next one. We have -2 times 5x plus, because there's a plus sign right there, -2 times 5x. It gets a little funky when you have negatives, and that's why it's a little bit better just to write it like this. So you have negative 10x, and then I'm just going to change this to minus because I know negative times a positive, -2, whoops, that's incorrect. Let me erase that. It should be just 1. You're probably confused there, as was I. So negative 10x is -2 times 5x, and then plus a -2 times 1. So it's weird to have that plus and minus next to each other, so I'm just going to make it a minus because adding a negative is the same thing as subtraction, and then -2 times 1 is just -2. So negative 10x and a -2 or -2, and that's my answer for that one. With those two things, I think we're ready for this Khan Academy, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's take a look here. We have a -2, and then what I'm going to do is I know I'm going to be distributing right away because there's nothing to do inside those parentheses. So I'm going to take this step by step. Especially with negatives, you got to be careful. So this first parenthesis is going to give me a -2 times -5. That's positive 10n. Then I have a -2 times a positive 6, and that gives me minus 12, or -12. I know I said, hey, just copy down that plus, but because it's a -2 times a positive 6, I know that's going to be a minus, so that's why I just changed it right to minus right away. So here's my first one. I'm going to copy down this plus here. I'm trying to find a better spot for this here. I'm going to move it down, -12. I'm going to copy down this plus all the way here. And now I'm going to get started on the second distribution. And I'm going to make this one green just so we can see the two different parentheses we have going on here. First, I'm going to do the 5 times the 2, as this first arrow right here indicates, and that's 10. And then I have positive 5 times a -7n. So that's going to be -35n. Now, this is the part that I like to do with a highlighter or different types of underlining. So I have a 10n and a -35n. Those are like terms because they have the same variable. Let's get another color here, maybe orange. Then I have a -12 and a positive 10. Those are my other like terms. Those are the constants. And those are like terms. So now I can combine what I can combine here. So the 10n and the -35n, let me start with that. I have 10n minus 35n, that gives me -25n, and then a -12 plus 10 gives me -2. So there's a lot of rules that we have to apply here. Anytime you have positives and negatives, you have multiplication, you have addition. So there's a lot going on, but we're going to find the correct answer. It looks like D matches what we're looking for. There we go. Next question. This one looks a little bit easier. So this one actually is it looks easier, but it's tricky in the sense that it doesn't look like we have distribution. But if we have that minus sign in front, we need to apply that minus to both things inside the parenthesis. How does that work? Well, let me just copy it on the minus k. There's nothing to do there, okay, because we haven't done anything yet with this parentheses, which should be first. So here's a parentheses, nothing to combine there. So we have that negative k, nothing to do there, but we're going to apply this minus sign. And the reason why we can do that is essentially that minus sign is this. It's implied multiplication. We have a negative 1. You're like, well, where's the 1? Well, whenever you multiply 1 by something, it doesn't show up. It's the same thing with a negative sign. It's really a negative 1, but it doesn't show up. So we have negative times a negative 8. That gives me positive 8k. And then a negative times positive 7 gives me minus 7. What you'd probably notice is that the signs change. So this negative went to a positive, and this positive went to a negative. That's what happens when there's a negative sign outside parentheses, is they just end up kind of changing to the opposite sign. Okay, so we've got that established. Now I'm going to look for like terms. I have a negative k and a 8k, but no other constants. So I'm just going to combine those two, and that gives me 7k minus 7. So that's option A. So let's do option A. And we're done. We have only 2 more to go. This one looks pretty easy because they're all positives. Positives make it a lot easier. So let's go ahead and show what that looks like. I like drawing these little arrows. That reminds me that I need to do it. And if there were 3 terms on the inside, you need to do it to all 3. So let's go ahead and get started. So we got 5 times 10k, that's 50k, plus 5 times 1, and that's 5. I'm going to copy down the plus sign in between these two expressions, plus, and then I have 2 times 2, that's 4, and then 2 times 8k, that gives me 16k. All right, something else, if you don't have a highlighter, you can just like underline like this, and then I'm going to do squiggly for the like terms that are constants. So I have 50k plus 16k, that gives me 66k, and then plus 9. Something you'll notice is the variable is typically listed first, and then the constants last. So we have 66k plus 9, and that's that answer, option A again. And we're done. Okay, next question. This is the last one. Something else I want to keep in mind. So I should have mentioned this in the previous one, but anytime you have a plus, so for example, if it were, I don't know, 5 plus 5r, negative 5r minus 2, a lot of people think, oh, I got to distribute that addition. No, you're not going to do that. You only do distribution when there's implied multiplication. So in this case, there's only the 8 that's multiplying, so we're going to do that first. So we need to do 8 times negative 5r, that's negative 40r, and then 8 times negative 2, that's negative 16. Whenever that negative r and then really plus that, but again, if there's a plus, a minus, you really don't need that plus sign. So I have negative r, I'm going to do a squiggly for that, negative 40r, and then there's no other constant, so I'm just going to leave him alone. Now, this really a 1r, a negative 1r, kind of mentioned that already, but anytime you have a variable by itself, there's always a coefficient. It just might be 1 if it does, like, for example, x is really 1x. So in this case, it's negative 41. They're both negatives. They get bigger, negative 41r, and then minus 16, option D. So that's all there is to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that Khan Academy tutorial. If you have any questions on it, please leave a comment below and make sure to check out my other videos. And I look forward to seeing you next time right here on Wes Explains Best.